I'm Connor Old, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Controlled Chaos. And today we're going to be looking at a director that I've been talking about for a while. I've started making a joke about him for talking about him, but never getting around to him. It's great to finally get around to him. He's a great director, and a director that I've been fascinated about ever since I heard of him. He is the director of When Harry Met Sally, of Stand By Me, and of A Few Good Men. He is none other than Reiner. So welcome back, guys. If you're new to the series, what we do every single week is we break down a new filmmaker and we talk about the general idea of what makes them great. We also look at what I consider his best movie, my favorite movie of theirs, and an underrated movie of theirs. And sometimes they go in and out, sometimes they don't. I definitely try to look at directors who maybe their careers are done, maybe they're over, or directors I'm really passionate about, directors that I think at least have sort of 3 great movies that I can really latch onto and then go from there. Other directors that maybe I haven't really been a big fan of, but then I discover into their back catalog and I deserve that. Now, these guys need to be covered. They're definitely directors that deserve almost respect in a sense, someone like a John Carpenter. But having a lot of fun with this series. We are starting to wind down. October is coming up soon. I'm not sure when I'm going to cover, the Oscars. I think I'm going to do like mid-ish October. So I might skip a couple weeks. I'm just trying to plan things out as I'm going in my head right now. But after this episode, there probably should be about 4, maybe 5 more. So we're not at the end, but there's still some more going on, but we're starting to wind down. So that means just thinking about okay, who do I get? I want to make sure I get the right directors before I transition over and sort of have those, and I want to make sure I don't have those regrets and get the directors I'm passionate about, and directors I'm sort of fascinated about. And Rob Reiner was right up there on that list because, like I said, I've been talking about him all the time because I always talked about, especially in the Kubrick episode or even a Soderbergh episode or Wilder episode, where they're definitely directors that can go to different genres, although they do have a sort of a continuous voice between all of them. But Kubrick does the Full Metal Jacket is his war movie, Shining is his horror movie, Eyes Wide Shut is his sort of sexual thriller movie. So that's why I sort of consider Reiner about that. And I've done all the other guys, but I haven't done Rob Reiner, so I finally got around to him. And when I first heard about Rob Reiner, I was really interested in him just because of the fact that he is a director who I never really heard of because, when you're young, you start thinking of people like, this person is Steven Spielberg. He made E.T. and Jurassic Park, movies that sort of existed in the ether and I saw, but never really connected that they were the same person, when you're younger. But Rob Reiner, I didn't connect that it was the same person until pretty late in life, or, like a year and a half ago, I'd say, because I knew about Harry Met Sally, I knew about Few Good Men, I knew about pretty much all of his movies, even like The Bucket List I knew about. But I didn't connect that it was the same person, mostly because he definitely transitions between each genres. He doesn't have a super distinctive voice or distinctive visual style. He doesn't write his own movies, so he has different writers have their own voice. So he's definitely a person where he's not recognizable. But if you just look at his IMDb, I ask you to go do that. These are the movies at least you've heard of or movies that you really like from the years 84 to I'd say 95, with the exception of North, which is 94. So some people go up to 92, which is A Few Good Men, which is like a run of what would it be? It would be, this is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, then When Harry Met Sally. No, then The Princess Bride, then When Harry Met Sally, then Misery, then A Few Good Men. So that's a 6 run. But then I discount North and put American President, which is 95, which is the year after. That would be 7, sort of a great sort of solid run of really fantastic movies, or these are just all-time classics, and something like A Few Good Men and A Stand By Me. And I have an interesting stat coming up about just the sort of cultural landmark that Rob Reiner has created that not a lot of people know about him. And even for the sense of what was this, like my 25th episode or whatever, just the fact that, or no, 26 probably, yeah, 26. Just the fact that I finally got to him after 26 other directors, it's just to show that he's sort of underrated, underappreciated, and I'm even looking out for those directors. But he's definitely a person who when I first saw him and sort of figured him out, I was like, wow, that's really interesting, where he made all these great movies, but then he's sort of gone now. One thing that he points out, and sort of the reason why I think maybe he's not making as great movies now, is because he always talked about that's the big question when people talk about Rob Reiner. It's how does he transition from When Harry Met Sally or The Princess Bride, fantasy movie, into more of a sort of an adult romance movie, comedy, rom-com, and then transition from when Harry Met Sally in '89 to '90 or '91, '90 I think, with Misery, which is like a thriller, a horror thriller type thing. And he just says that he always looks at central themes, and that's a big thing for Rob Reiner, is that he had a personal aspect in When Harry Met Sally, because he was married for 10 years, and then Nora Ephron, the screenwriter, was single for 10 years, and just about their friendship. And then moving over to Misery, he found the real sort of character in Paul Sheldon, and just the success of trying to do something different, but then people get worried at him because he's not doing what they love. So you have that interesting aspect to it. So you have both those juggling back and forth. So you have just interesting themes that he's been able to put in, and that's why I think he's maybe struggling in his later movies, because they're almost like old people movies, where they're definitely looking at older characters, and because he's an old man and he's starting to worry about those central ideas, and maybe that's why they're not connecting to audiences like they used to. But he definitely should be marked down in cinematic history because of that incredible run that he had. Of course, his father is Carl Reiner, so he sort of grew up in that sense, and maybe he was typecast, and he really definitely proved himself as this great director with doing incredible, just different movies in something like a mockumentary like this is Spinal Tap, and working with great people. I think he's an incredible talent, where maybe people are saying, he's always a success to all great people, but his ability to you can't just direct those movies themselves, and his ability to find these great people. He sort of found Aaron Sorkin. A Few Good Men was his first screenplay. Of course, he wrote the play and whatnot, but he found someone like Kathy Bates giving her first Oscar, and Christopher Guest with This Is Spinal Tap, and then he goes on to doing his sort of improv comedy stuff, and Reiner goes a different direction, and gives what Billy Crystal's first leading man role that he's so well deserved, and sort of shows the world that this is a guy to watch out, and he's a super awesome comedic talent. He's not just a Saturday Night Live guy, and really just that's the big thing about him, is that being able to relate to those themes gives it a nice personal aspect, but also the incredible ability to switch genres so seamlessly and master all these genres, being just some of the best movies in their respective genres, which has made the best movies so hard. And that's actually the stat I was going to point out over here. That's because he is hard to pick the best movie, because he's like Kubrick, where he's mastered a lot of genres. I went with my sort of classification for that was, okay, how do I figure out what the best one is? Because they're so different. How do you compare Stand By Me to When Harry Met Sally to Princess Bride to Misery? It's like to A Few Good Men to American President. It's very hard. But I decided that it was essentially the biggest impact in a certain genre, in almost like the biggest genre. Like, I think The Shining is the best movie in the horror genre, and the horror genre is a huge genre compared to maybe the best movie in the political satire genre with Dr. Strangelove. So that's why I sort of made my distinction there. I did the same thing here, but even still, that was so hard, because he's almost like look at the stat. He's almost like the best. He's made the best movie in every genre. I mean, not like big ones like comedy and drama, but more specific ones. I searched this up on Google. I just searched up based on what they have search results. They have I did on mobile, and computer does the same thing, where I'll just give you a list of sort of the posters back to back, and I think it's based on search results. It's not an editorial thing, but you just search, like, if I would just be a general consumer, and the best fantasy movies, right? So this is what I did. I did best fantasy, and Princess Bride was fourth, right behind Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and then Pan's Labyrinth, and then Fellowship, and then it was Princess Bride. So that's great. Fourth in fantasy in a huge genre. That's awesome, especially behind two Lord of the Rings movies. Really pretty much third. And then best coming of age movies, Stand By Me was second, right behind The Great Breakfast Club. That's so hard to beat. Then I looked at best mockumentary. So it's a little bit of a smaller genre, but This Is Spinal Tap was number one. So that was incredible. But then look at this. This was one that really blew me away. The best courtroom drama, A Few Good Men, was the number one. It beat out 12 Angry Men and The Verdict. The first thing that pops up is A Few Good Men, which is incredible, because it's definitely sort of gotten that cultural, recognizable sort of landscape. Everyone sort of knows that courtroom scene. You can't handle the truth. All that stuff. But seeing that beat out something like a fan favorite like 12 Angry Men was really interesting to see. But I didn't go with A Few Good Men. I actually searched up best romantic comedies, and what did I see first? When Harry Met Sally, and that really beat it for me, because when rom-coms are a huge genre. Like it's a really big genre. Multiple come out every single year, and to be able to have the #1 movie in that genre, and in my opinion, I agree. I think that's the best romantic comedy is When Harry Met Sally. And just to have that in that genre, I was like, how can I not go with When Harry Met Sally? And it was hard for me because it's like, When Harry Met Sally is sort of my favorite, but I didn't pick it for my favorite because it's like, I gotta talk about someone else, another movie, just because he's made so many great movies and they're so different, they're so hard to compare. So he might as well talk about something else. But right now we're talking about When Harry Met Sally and why I consider that his best movie. Really, when I talked about La La Land in my favorite movies of the year list, I talked about how Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone have an incredible relationship, and their chemistry really leads the film. And this is the exact same way. Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal have more chemistry and better chemistry than most everything. Better than even some buddy cop movies where it has sort of the similar rom-com beats where where they hate each other and then they sort of become friends and then they love each other. It has that sort of structure, but then it has the interesting, unique perspective having the 10-year structure to it and having them meet and then not get together, and then 5 years later, and then meet, and then not together, and then again 10 years later, meet, and then get together, and then the 2 years it takes for them to get together. That 12-year sort of span. Really, the movie is carried by Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan's great relationship, but also the incredible screenwriting by Nora Ephron. There's a great video online actually by Lessons from the Screenplay, which talks about just how When Harry Met Sally, and actually the book from Robert McKee story, and he talks about how you have to keep convention but avoid cliche. And that's a great sort of saying that I love, where it's good to keep in the back of your mind because everyone knows that When Harry Met Sally is a rom-com, but it does something different. It's the old Hollywood saying of give me the same thing but slightly different so they don't know it's the same thing, right? And actually when I saw this movie I was like, this is Sleeping with Other People, because I saw Sleeping with Other People first. It's a great movie I love, with Alison Brie and Jason Sudeikis, I think, and that was a great movie, but it's like, obviously Sleeping with Other People is like a When Harry Met Sally type movie, but I didn't know. I was just like, oh, this is a great movie. So that has an interesting place in me. But then I watched When Harry Met Sally and I was like, oh yeah, this is where it comes from. This is a classic movie. I know this is my mom, one of her favorite movies. And what I love about this is, of course, you have the great screenwriting, but also just shows you how much it totally respects the romantic comedy genre. It's not The Notebook, which is like, oh, a chick flick's like a totally romantic movie and maybe a chuckle sort of here and there, but that sort of disrespect the romantic comedy genre. This is a romantic comedy movie where it's not like a Wedding Crashers, which has the problem of, okay, comedy in the beginning, and then drop all the comedy and become a total romantic film for the rest of the movie. And it's sort of like confusing, like, wait, what happened to all the comedy? Why am I not laughing? But then what it does great for this one is it has comedy at the beginning, but also has that romantic sort of touch. And then near the end of the movie, yes, the romantic obviously comes up because that's what the emotional climax is, but there's still comedy in between there. So it does a great, awesome chunk of, like, there's 50% comedy, 50% romance, and then they put it together in this awesome blend. And even if you're a guy and you think maybe rom-coms or a chick flick, I mean, check this out, just because it's a really funny movie. The writing is incredible. The way sort of they do split screen and all that stuff is a really, really fun, unique tool that they use. But really, when I was looking at the screenwriting, one thing I noticed is how this, the screenplay really doesn't, it tells you a lot about how witty the dialogue is and how great Nora Ephron is, but it really shows me how Rob Reiner directs and how he works with his actors to create a cadence to that, create a great space for them, and really make sure with rehearsing and whatnot so that they have a great chemistry. You can't just create chemistry, but even someone like Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams, they hate each other on the set of Notebook, but there's two great actors so they can make it work. So directing so he gets the great performances out of the two, the incredible sort of settings of New York. Seems like a Woody Allen movie, but totally transcends that in my opinion. And then just, it shows me how Reiner is a great director, where we always talk about creating like great spaces for actors, and Reiner clearly has done that, and he's created a great space with a writer, because a writer is so prominent. Aaron Sorkin is prominent in A Few Good Men and The American President, but he's also very prominent, Nora Ephron is very prominent in this movie, but that doesn't mean Reiner's set to the side. He's definitely there right beside them, trying to make sure everything works and it's a cohesive story. And he just seems like sort of a great director in that sense, where the script tells you a lot, but also Reiner's influence is definitely put on there, and how the movie is not just a screenplay to read, but a screenplay to put on the screen and get those emotional moments, and make sure to not almost write too much dialogue, if that would make sense, and really create the emotional moments. So he definitely feels like there's a pull there, because you have to have a director. That's sort of the point of it, and we can see that he makes a comfortable set for all of his actors, because he worked an amazing job with kids in Stand By Me, or the incredible sort of improv talent with his Spinal Tap, and the craziness that goes on there, and just his ability to hone in sort of the ability of have the actors really deliver the great performance, and then work the movie around them with a great writing as a base. It's sort of a foundation that he's been used for a while. Now let's move over into what I consider my favorite movie of his, which is really hard as well, but I went with A Few Good Men. Now, the reason why I sort of chose A Few Good Men and not something like Stand By Me, which I think is a great masterpiece, and even something like Princess Bride, which I really like, I just went with this because of one reason, and that's Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is my favorite actor in terms of male actor. He's my second favorite actor overall. Amy Adams is my favorite actor. Actress, male, female, doesn't matter. I love Amy Adams. But Tom Cruise is number 2. And I love that because, he has the action sort of stuff that he does right now in his Mission Impossibles and his Mummies and his Jack Reachers and his Edge of Tomorrows. But then he also has his sort of previous work, which was more dramatic, which is more sort of serious. So that's why I love Tom Cruise, because you can see both of them. Both movies exist in the ether. You have your Rain Mans, you have your Few Good Men, but you also have your Edge of Tomorrows and your Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation. So you have all that awesome stuff. And then what I love about him is just a great, young, amazing performance from Tom Cruise. I think he really carries this movie, and I always said this movie is like a really great blockbuster. It's not like the big action superhero movies that we're sort of used to today with nonstop action, but it's an action with the words. It is so incredibly tense. It is a great movie where it's a popcorn movie where it's like, what's going to happen. It's definitely sort of has the beats of what's going on, but the incredible dialogue and the way the performances are given off and sort of the smart cockiness of it, it's so much fun, and they have a lot of fun with this movie, even though it's not this stupid, like, super big action, Fast and Furious, whatever. It's still, you'd have fun with it because of the great dialogue and the sort of tense moments. And I'd actually show this movie to a lot of people because it's definitely that courtroom drama shell, but within it has so many great performances and supporting performances, and how everyone sort of works together in creating this believable dialogue and this believable case. It's really just a great job. Of course, I talked about Tom Cruise. I think he nails the character and it really gives an extra dimension to the character, if you ask me. And one of his best performances is A Few Good Men, because it allows him to be this big, sort of brash, sort of smart, cocky character, which a lot of Sorkin's dialogue sort of lends to. Social Network, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, something like Molly's Game with Jessica Chastain, who's like I haven't seen it yet, but seems like this incredibly sort of smart character. Tom Cruise is this young, cocky guy where he's the best, and he's a great lawyer, and he knows it. But then he gives the emotional connection of sort of him and his dad and living up to expectations and the immaturity that he comes with. And that comes in direct contrast with Kevin Pollak. I thought he's an incredible supporting job in this movie, instead of not Demi Moore, but the other guy on his team, where he knows his place. He's not Tom Cruise. He's sort of the more relaxed, mature guy who's not as talented as Tom Cruise, but definitely has that stableness to give to Tom Cruise, has that contrast with him. Of course, you have sort of a weird relationship with Demi Moore that I didn't really buy, but I was really concerned about Tom Cruise and Kevin Pollak and their sort of relationship. And then, of course, Kiefer Sutherland and Kevin Bacon. And then, of course, you can't forget the incredible Jack Nicholson with the you can't handle the true seed. And just he doesn't move his hand. I'm moving my hands now, but he's sitting there behind them. And he's got the deadpan stare, and he's just staring him down. He's getting so mad, and it's very dramatic, but it totally works. And it's a scene that you can watch all the time on YouTube. I know I do. And he just totally nails it, where he's not just angry Nicholson all the time, but when he has the sort of the calmness up to him. But when he does get angry, he's going to get angry. He's going to put this guy in his place. He doesn't matter if he goes to jail or whatnot. He's going to show him, because it's about ethics. Just an incredible movie. And I love that a lot, and just Tom Cruise is the reason, because I think it's just an incredible performance. I love to see young Tom Cruise act, because he totally nails his performance. And then underrated, I just went with The Sure Thing, because It's on teen movies. This is not even considered a great teen comedy in sort of the big ranks of them. It's not even considered maybe the best sort of John Cusack teen comedy. Some people may say like Say Anything, and I might even say Anything, but it's this interesting sort of road movie where it's really funny. John Cusack is sort of that boyish charm that he has, and he does really, really well. And it's just a really funny movie, a really cute movie, a very heartfelt movie. That's like sort of like a lot of Reiner's movies where you can see where things are going. They're pretty standard in that sense. It's not like he's a unique director, but they're still interesting stories because he focuses on the performances, and and a lot of these things is like, these are older movies, so they sort of created a lot of these sort of tropes that we know along today. So sure things definitely want to check out with a great John Cusack performance. So anyways, guys, for all those reasons, that's why Rob Reiner is a master of controlled chaos. Make sure you like the video, comment below, let me know what you think of Rob Reiner's movies. Who would I like to do next week? Or, I'm sort of preparing ahead, so you'd have to get it in pretty soon to see, maybe hopefully I can get it in. But anyways, guys, I'd love to hear your comments. Please comment below. Let me know the show. Maybe let me know if you're excited for Old Oscar Countdown. Tell your friends, that'll be coming back in a month or so, and that should be a lot of fun. But anyways, guys, my name is Connor Old, and until next time, stay tuned.